So we're live now, I think. And let's just talk a bit, right, until everyone gets the stream, until everything is out there. So, yeah. So, we're live. The cool
Hold
thing
on.
is, in case,
Hello.
hello, in case someone's already
Hello.
watching, as you can see, probably can see this new why the before we start, this is sort of the pre-show now. Before we start, hello, an unofficial hello. We were a bit on a hiatus. How do you pronounce that? We had a break.
Hiatus, I think.
Hiatus. We had a
Hiatus.
break. Hiatus.
A break.
We had a, we had a break because YouTube took away the possibility to live stream from Hangouts, from Google Hangouts. That is how we did it, what we did. And so we were looking for a new solution, and I think we found it with StreamYard, which is a service. Jennifer, Nature Lover 69 on the chat. The cool thing, and Roy on the chat as well. Hello, hello. The cool thing about this is that I have everything in one screen here, even the YouTube comments on the same picture. The only downside is, well, it's not a downside. We have the StreamYard logo because we're currently still on the free subscription. So we're testing that out. And in case we'll use that, we will continue using that. But well, one I don't know if one live stream per month is worth buying that. So we're testing that. So we're on for now 2 minutes. So let me start the in conversation. What is it? 27? Is it in conversation 27? I think
I
it's
think so.
conversation 27, January 2020. We're back online. We're back live. I'm in the unofficial pre-show. The first 2 minutes, I talked a bit about that we're now on StreamYard. Everything runs, of course, still on YouTube. So nothing changes for you out there. For us, it's a big change because the interface is different, but it all seems to be much cooler than it used to be on Google Hangouts. So I have a really cool interface, even including the YouTube comments. So I don't have to switch windows all of the time. So this is really cool. So hello and welcome to In Conversation 27 on January 25th of 2020. My name is Pete. I like pictures. And with me in the conversation, of course, Fernando, Fern, admin of Luxlit.net, and of course, running his own blog on all things fern.tumblr.com. And I have to see, I can somehow, making soloing Fern. Say hi, Fern.
Hi, Fern.
Okay, that was good. Very good. I brought you like usual. I brought you something because I'm wearing my pretzel shirt.
Oh, and it's a big pretzel and it's
It's a
broken. So
huge
it's
pretzel.
proper pretzel.
It's a proper pretzel with a surprise.
What's the surprise? Ah!
How cool is that? How cool is that?
That is very cool.
Very cool.
That
So
is very
hello
cool.
to
Oh my
the
god.
chat, to all of you out there who haven't seen. The thing is, since we stopped doing the live in conversations, my channel got like 100 more subscribers. So I don't know if it's a good idea to continue no, of course we will continue the in conversation. So maybe someone's out there who hasn't seen us yet. My name's Pete. You probably know me if you know my channel. My friend and fellow photographer Fern Fernando. You can find his blog on Tumblr, all things Fern. blog.tumblr.com. He's also admin of Luxlit, as I mentioned, a blog to support original photography on Tumblr. I'm one of the admins on of photos worth seeing.tumblr.com, and you can find my photos, of course, on tvum.tumblr.com. And we do more or less frequently conversations on photography. This time today, we're going to be talking about photography burnouts, about creative blocks, and all that jazz, right? The real nasty stuff, and also about ideas how we might overcome these blocks, these burnouts. And if we still have time, we always run out of time, we're going to talk about gear, and especially since Fern shoots mirrorless and also full frame, and I'm still, and last month I bought this beauty, the Canon 90D, which is still a DSLR, still an APS-C camera, and that for a reason. So we'll maybe be talking about that whole issue. So, but let's start with, photography burnout. Your suggestion, Fern. So I'm gonna lean back and leave you the stage.
Yeah, but you do have something to contribute, because here's the thing. So several, I'm not going to go into who, because at this point, but I know several photographers, actually even a couple who are not on Tumblr. There's photographers not on Tumblr, who have been going through this, and we went through it about the same time. And even Pete and I, for whatever reason, sort of came out of it about the same time too, and fell into it about the same time. So I had this, because I had the suggestion of this, because, and I cannot remember who it was, but someone, I posted on Luxlit a video about burnouts, and somebody commented in reply that, well, you should photograph what you love, and if you're doing it, basically, if you're doing it as a job, and that whole kind of thing. And what I had posted was a video by the Northrops, who, I don't know if some of you, I mean, I will share stuff of theirs every once in a while. They do camera reviews, but they also do this kind of thing about the personal side of photography. And I'm not going to search because it's going to, but anyway, and I thought it was interesting because the Tumblr's comment was focused more on, it seemed to be, to me, more on the whole business side of photography. And for example, TJ, who joined us a while back, who's the staff photographer where I work, in our department, and then Daniel, who joined us, I think, last year, who's a staff photographer at the university for another department. But especially TJ talked about how he really, he studied photography, and he used to be creative and all this stuff, but now that he has to do it 24/7, and it's a job, with certain limitations and so on, he has lost that creative push. And so in a sense, the comment by this Tumblr was spot on. I mean, yes, I mean, there's a lot of people. Actually, I was at a meeting of UC Davis photographers getting together to talk about photography, and several of them were like, no, I don't shoot anything personal anymore. I pretty much, this is what I do all the time. And the term burned out wasn't used, but it's pretty much the implication. I've lost that edge. I've lost that desire. I've lost the love of photography, if you will, even though they still do, but it's focused on the job and not on the creativity fun side of it. And what was interesting, so anyway, I watched the Northrop video, which is really good, and they brought up several things that had nothing because what really interested me was, especially considering that comment on the post about burnout from the Northrops, was the idea that it's only something if you or that it's usually something that you follow that professional route, and except for one person, all of the people, and there's about 7 or 8 of us who were going through this about the same time, none of us were professional photographers. And for example, Nurnielfa, she's been very public. She has posted a couple of times how recently she stopped posting pictures on Tumblr. She doesn't think photography is good enough. She's taking courses and a course, and that's sort of spiraled out of control. She just is going through a tough creative time right now in herself, because that's the other thing. We might be producing stuff that other people like, but we're not seeing it. So the Northrops, the one thing that really struck me the most, and I guess, and I'm sorry to ramble on, but the one thing that struck me about.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have a link for that video? Because I haven't seen the video. I don't know who has seen it. I just tried to find it, and I just saw we can, whenever we want to, show comments in that were sent to YouTube. So in the
all right,
that's
so
also
hold
makes
on.
things
Let me
much
do.
easier if we
Let me do an archive on Tumblr,
and then and then put it maybe in the chat.
Right. And let's do the post type videos. So anyway, the one thing that they said, which I thought was really just amazing, and here's what I really like about the Northrops. They're geeks, and especially Tony. Tony's like a full atomic nerd. Sometimes to the point of like, dude, speak English for God's sake. Especially when he's talking about camera gear, and he gets. I mean, he may not always be right, and he may do, but he also he has this scientific mind that is just really cool, I have to say. And Chelsea's just brilliant, and they balance each other out because. But the bottom line is they do research, and the thing they did here it is. Hold on, YouTube C. Let me go to YouTube and share that. The fascinating thing was that one of them, and I don't know who, and I'll also put the Dead Spiders, who is, I'm not sure who Dead Spiders is. Burnout comes from working on projects you are not passionate about. If you find yourself creating art solely to gain notoriety, market yourself, profit from, or for any other external reason, you will eventually burn out or become a shill. Work to feed your stomach, create to feed your soul. To be a professional artist, both aspects matter, but only one can be the driving focus. And I'm going to share the link to the LuxLit page as well on YouTube, which valid comment, but as I said, I found quite a few of us who were going through this, and none of us are professionals. Like in the case of Pete, coincidentally, he is a professional in the video field, so it's similar. But still, for Pete, the photography has been the outlet. If I'm not mistaken, am I wrong, Pete?
No, I mean, define professional.
Well, I mean, it's what you do for a living, and you have to do basically you have to follow guidelines according to what the clients
Yeah.
want, and you know what I mean.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, if I don't do photography for a living, but
Right.
I do have paid shootings here and there. So I have to, and I even if I don't like it, but I have to probably call myself a semi-professional photographer. And the thing is, I don't in the same way I don't do video for a living, as in it's not my primary income. So, but that's what I was trained for, and that's what I have been doing for, like, I don't know, 8 years or something, right? So, but I totally get the notion, as in, if you the thing is, I started to do, or I became interested in becoming, or becoming a professional videographer, because I simply like making videos, right? And there's a thing that um, the restrictions you have, can easily kill the how can I put that, the creative flame, and it starts to become a job, and you only have to do, like, these paint by numbers things, which is just part of the whole thing. And this is, no matter what you do, and no matter in which creative field you work, right? You do work for other people. There's a different thing. I mean, but I mean, I also think that the of all creatives in the world who make a living on their creativity, on their art, only a handful of millions and millions and millions of people, only a handful can really live on just what they like doing. As in, uh, of course, I mean, I think we have to differentiate between two things. There's I'm when I'm as an example, right? I'm a landscape nature photographer first and foremost. In for the photography that I do, for fun, the stuff that I post to my blog, the stuff that I usually talk about in my videos. This is the stuff that I do for fun, that I do, as, for it's well, fun is always like, yeah, or sounds like, you're jumping around the fields and snapping away, and it's hard work as well, but it, um,
It's satisfying
it's satisfying. That is the
because
word,
you're doing it because you want to. You're
right?
driven.
I want the
Yeah.
exactly, I want the results, and I enjoy the process. While when you do photography, when I do photography as a job, it's mostly portrait photography, and it's mostly not really creative portrait photography. We need photos mostly. We need photos of that event, or we need photos for our website, etc. So you have to do exactly what you're told, and of course, I enjoy it, to an extent, but there's almost no creative freedom there. Same goes for the video stuff. I mean, when I did, that was some years ago, and I haven't been doing something like that for quite a while. When I did, mostly advertising stuff, there was more creativity involved, like really talking with the client, creating a concept and working together. Sometimes it was really a creative thing. Sometimes it was, again, just paint by numbers and just doing what you're told. So, but that's the mixture of that, and you either like it or not, and it can easily become, a very, uh, a tedious thing. If And I know a lot of photographers, because if you really, most photographers who do that for a living are portrait photographers, and, I this is a thing that a friend of mine who's a professional photographer told me, is that most people who come to my studio want photos for their passport. And that's not really something that is an extremely creative thing. And she actually, she's now in the position that she can send these people away, and said, "No, I don't do that." But how many professionals can really do that? Can really send clients away because they don't want to do that type of work. And so, I think the majority of people, or the majority of professional artists, cannot turn any kind of client away, or it really hurts them if they, because it's not only that they lose money, it's also that, still, um, if you're, I mean, I think I want to say still people talk, but now with in ages of when the internet becomes more and more and more, uh, even bigger than it already is, then turn two clients away, and it can really hurt your reputation. So,
Well,
conclude that it can
yeah,
become a frustrating thing, and so I even wouldn't want to make photography to my main job.
right.
Uh, I don't have to rely on photography. Someone tells me, if someone asks me, "Can you do that?" Then I can do it if I want to, and if I don't want to, then,
Right.
well, I don't lose anything. That's the big advantage that I have.
And in all fairness, the comment by Dead Spiders was more about the whole idea of, following likes and so on. But again, what's really interesting is the people who I know were going through this are not likes followers. Oops. Granted, we, sometimes, and who was it? Was it Amy who asked recently, how do you feel when a photograph that you're absolutely in love with absolutely just gets 3 likes, absolutely dies? I think, didn't she ask that recently?
I don't know. I remember a post, by no, it was your post when Amy commented your post, about, how do you react when a professional tells you that you're a
We won't
photographer?
go there. I can't deal with that right now. Um, but here's the thing. I think whether you're a professional who is under pressure to create certain kinds of pictures, or you're
Amy said,
someone.
Amy, sorry, it's Amy on the chat. I could show that. Amy says yes, it was her post. How cool is that?
Yes.
We can share comments from the chat.
But to me, the pressure of working with a client who wants certain things, or being someone who follows likes, uh, is the same kind of pressure, because you're not producing what Pete said. You're not producing for yourself. You're producing for others, and you're trying to figure out what others want and stay in that groove. But the bottom line is, there's many of us who are not professionals who go through these issues. What the Northrops did was they went to the Mayo Clinic, and they, point by point, what the Mayo Clinic described as burnout, and they did then, they had like several points, and then they would discuss from there, because they were both, coincidentally, which is why they did the video, they were both going through burnout more or less at the same time, which was also fascinating to see the husband and wife team of professionals in the same field discussing all of this. And the one point that stuck with me that they made was that, what can happen, excuse me, is over time, we take more and more pictures. Over time, many of us, and I will say, for example, the people who were going through this burnout, all of us, this group at the same time, um, our photography keeps evolving and improving. We set excuse me, a specific standard for ourselves. And I will speak for myself. Um, I expect my photographs, the ones that are good, because I shoot a lot of shit. Um, I throw away a lot of files, and I'm saving less and less files, and I'm just dumping the bad ones. The ones that tell me, look, I suck, I'm not good, just get rid of me already. But we have a certain standard for ourselves, and I'm pretty certain this was what Nurnielfa was addressing or is addressing, and I know a friend of mine, actually, Dominic, who I've talked about every so often here. He's going through that too. He's just not turned on by some of these photographs that he keeps producing that make me want to just put my camera down and walk away and never take a picture again. But it's how we're judging ourselves. And it might be that we're our harshest critics, but it's also the fact that the more photographs we take, the more good photographs we're going to produce. And really what we need to do is adjust that. And in the video, they highlight different suggestions, which I thought were brilliant, on how to address if you're in that kind of rut, which is what I think I'm in now. So anyway, I really just wanted to bring that whole discussion up. If any of you have questions or comments, or Pete, could we put out the link to the StreamYard, and if anybody wants to join us and talk to us about this at the moment? Can you do it? I don't know.
Sorry, I was distracted because I was checking some things out here. You mean the link to stream? I quite honestly, I don't want to put it on the chat. If someone wants to join this, they can message me on Tumblr, and I will gladly and happily send them the link to this. But I'm a bit cautious with new technology.
That's true.
I don't
Yes.
know. I mean, so especially since I don't want the link to be floating around later because the chat will be visible later as well. So
Right.
no, I will not post. But I'm still waiting for the link to the Northrop video
It's on YouTube.
on the chat.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't.
YouTube. Yeah. YouTube.com, watch, question mark, blah, 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 blah. And then the one right under it is the one for LuxLit.
Interesting, because I didn't see it. Apparently,
and then
I
the
didn't.
one right
Sorry.
under it is the one for LuxLit.
Interesting, because I didn't see it. Sorry, I have to. I don't have. No, there's no link. There's no link in the chat.
It's right under Steffi's hello.
Do you guys see the chat in the chat? Do you guys on the chat, guys and girls in the chat, see the link? Because I don't see it.
Really?
I opened the page. Let me try it again. Maybe.
Could
No,
it be that
I don't see a link in the chat.
Could it be that YouTube doesn't allow links anymore in the, because I'm seeing it.
Steffi writes she doesn't see a link either.
All right, so I am going to
Maybe because you're not could be because you're not an admin.
Here we go. Hold
I
on.
think I can post it. Send me the link in the private chat here on StreamYard, and then
I'm going to do that. That's a good point. So the LuxLit that'll include the comment is already yours, and
let me try that. Now I will post the link in the chat, maybe,
and the one for the Northrops directly
in the, but it doesn't really, because you can't click it in the video. So, but whatever. But now I have it now in the. Visible now. Cool.
Did you also post the one I just sent you from YouTube for the Northrops?
That is. No, that I didn't. The
Yeah, because one
Northrop
is for LuxLit, so
video.
you can see the comments.
I can apparently post
Okay.
or put links into the
And
a link.
yes,
What is a
yes,
link?
because mine didn't have like it didn't have the link info. So here's the other thing, by the way. Speaking of the LuxLit, but I've brought this up before, so I'm going to be brief. Yes, I can do it, Pete. Stop it. So we haven't insulted each other until now. It's been like what 30 minutes, and we haven't insulted each other. What's wrong? It's been so long.
What's
We're out
wrong
of
with
practice.
you?
Oh no, you don't want to pull at that thread. No, no, no. But what I found really interesting was for the LuxLit post, there was only 4 likes and really 1 comment. So really only let's say 3 people read it. And I know, and this goes to your video that you just posted recently, Pete, by the way, I think. I know that a whole lot of us have either had burnout related to our photography or any sort of creative, because that's the other thing. The same kind of burnout that we go through as photographers, I'm sure other people who create visual arts or any kind of arts or who are creative in any way, shape, or form go through this. And I'm sure it's pretty much the same. Um, the equipment might be different, but the feelings and the despair and the frustration are the same. And I wasn't hurt, but I was like, why is it that when we post stuff like that is more about the personal side of our creative process, it gets ignored? But when it's about, equipment, and we don't post that much about equipment in LuxLit, and I know you don't either in Let's Talk Photography. But still, the more personal stuff usually gets ignored. Yet so many of us are going through it, have gone through it, or will probably go through it again. And that's the other thing that I wonder about. It's like, uh, why are we so fixated on the technical and all of this other stuff, but so uninterested in what often really affects us? Anybody?
I don't know. I don't know if it really is that way. I found that a lot of people just simply, I mean, I don't read every piece of text that shows up on my dashboard.
which
So
which is part of the part. Yes, could be true too. Yes, I get it.
and so if I'm super terribly bad with coming up with catchy titles. This is every time I post on I make a video. Literally sit here and think about and change the title like 5 times, and I don't want to do. I want to do. Don't want to do clickbait titles, but that's apparently the thing that I mean. Especially the web, we're flooded
Mhm.
with information, and reading a text, even if it's just one paragraph, is time consuming. And so I have to convince people there's something in there in that text that you might be interested. It's kind of funny that I think it's really interesting and it's really revealing. I have a writing blog um, that I don't post very often, an English writing blog, right? Don't post very often too. And I have a German writing blog that I post even less. And too, but the German writing blog has like 3 times the followers than my English writing blog, and I think it's because the text on the German one are much are much smaller, right? And then sometimes just put out 1 or 2 liners, which is, I think it's easier digestible, and it's I before it's the same thing with videos. Who sits down and watches a video? They don't really know what this is about. So this is kind of the quagmire I'm in, right? On the one hand side, I want to communicate, hey, there is something in that video that might interest you. On the other hand, I want to have a short and catchy title, which is mutually exclusive. And so I think that plays a
And
tremendous
it is a
role.
30-minute video, by the way. It's 38 minutes or so. It's a longer video. So that is a good point.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, this is the thing, and this is what I strongly believe in, and this is, I think it absolutely fits the whole subject. There is, and this is what I read some time ago, and that really made me kind of made me click. Is there is an audience for everything, no matter what it is. There is an audience for everything. You just have to find them. And this world, we have more than 7 billion people on this planet, and a lot of them have access to the internet. So there are millions and millions and millions of people who would definitely be interested in what you do or what I do. We just have to find them. We have to find them. No, wrong. I correct myself. We have to give them the possibility to find us. And this is, if we want people to see our stuff, we have to give them the possibility to find that stuff. And so, and this is, I'm super terribly bad if it's about self-advertising. Super terribly bad. And this is the thing where I have to kick my butt all of the time, because yeah, if you put your stuff out there, and I think this is one of the big obstacles that a lot of creatives go through. On the one hand side, of course, we want our stuff out there. We want people to see it. On the other hand, we're super anxious that someone might not like it. And that someone, and this is the thing, we have, like, I don't know, 100, 200, 500 likes on our photos, or and 10 lovely comments, and then there's one mean person, or even a person who's just isn't even mean, but writes something, or that is. I had a comment on the comments on my videos on YouTube, for example, usually are very, very positive, very constructive, and
Even from me.
even from you, right? But
On
there's
YouTube, I respect you.
I had like lately I got a comment on one of my videos, which had like 4 comments that said, "Oh, super helpful and thank you." And there was one comment of a person that I didn't know, just writing, "Wow, that was pointless." And I sat there like half an hour pondering why did they write that, and what did I wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. It's I it's just as it is. I mean, that might have been pointless for that very person. Fair enough. Might have not been pointless for a different person. And so I think what we need to learn, well, I definitely need to learn that, to stop explaining ourselves, just doing it. If what we do doesn't speak for itself, then we did something wrong. And even if it speaks, and this is another thing that we need to learn, even if it speaks for itself, then there was still every person who watches what we do, who reads the stuff we write, who looks at the photos we make, they will create their own story. We have no possibility. We have no possibility to change the story in another person's mind, unless we communicate with them, or we start communicating with them. And I think this is the only thing we can do, is to communicate to people that they can communicate with us, if we want that, of course, and if they want that. So um when I'm happy with what I did, why would anyone, or why would I allow anyone to convince me that I shouldn't be happy with what I did? And I think this is the biggest struggle, and I don't think that we can ever completely get rid of that. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because what you're talking about, um, and I know at least one person on the chat has seen it, I'm sure, is the video. Speaking of videos on YouTube from Sean Tucker about critics, and it addresses exactly that issue. But I do think that's a good point, and I think, um, oh dear God, um, the point about it's about time allocation, that Roy talks about. For example, he could, and I get that a lot of people. I mean, and I myself sometimes will just zip through and miss stuff. I get that, but I also wonder, and maybe it's still, I know maybe it's always going to go back to the fact that I think, depending on, excuse me, depending on how serious we are about our photography, which goes back to your video about the equipment, there's all of this focus on the equipment and everything else, but there isn't really focus on the personal side of the creativity
What
and
Fern,
on the
sorry, sorry,
learning.
sorry to interrupt. What Fern is referring to is a video that I posted yesterday, so the day before the stream, which was kind of an unplanned video in which I did a little rant on equipment, and how I personally think that that well, watch the video, so I don't
Right,
want to have to. It's a
which is
short
good. I
bit,
mean, it's a good video.
comparatively short video. So sorry.
Strangely short video, but oh well. Um, but it was interesting to me because you know how I feel about all that stuff. But the bottom line is, the burnout thing, I think, is something that needs to be discussed more. Um, but it's really difficult, I guess, because it is personal, and because what you just said about that, like, we that not that, like, that this is pointless comment. We take this stuff personal, and we usually think that we're the only ones going through this, and especially going back to the point about seeing yourself become a better photographer, and then feeling disappointed because you're not doing, um, you're not creating masterpieces at least once a week or something, like, let's put it that way. Whereas for a while you were, uh, you know, I think it, at least for me, what has helped is the talking about it, the learning more about photography, and the not stopping doing stuff that is photography related. I don't photograph a lot. I I mean, I'm going to have a hefty excuse me, photography schedule next month probably. But again, whether you photograph every day, whether you photograph once a month, whatever, but it's the continuing, if we really love what we're doing, continuing not letting that downturn turn. At least that's the way I deal with it. Even though I've been in this burnout, I haven't stopped going in. Although I haven't been going in as much, going into Tumblr, doing the stuff with Luxlet, learning about photography, learning about art, looking at other photography, looking at documentaries. I still got, what I mean. I'm still in that environment, and I'm still learning, but I don't do what I usually would have done, I have to say, which was to get even more depressed and go into the cycle of depression and isolate myself. I mean, we didn't do this for a while. Granted, part of it was because Hangouts died for YouTube, and that brought in a lot of pressure. But coincidentally, we were both going through the same thing at the same time. But we didn't stop communicating, although we didn't communicate as much. But so maybe that's also, I guess, again, for me, that's the way I deal with it. But how do we deal with it, and how do we, I guess, maybe support each other? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things about this burnout issue, or just the doubt in general, because it doesn't have to be that. I mean, how many of you have doubts about your photography? Well, I have doubts about you as a person, but that's a whole other.
So that's why you don't photograph me. This is the thing, right? People who laugh
I
about
have
their
photographed
own
you.
jokes, that's what I personally do find suspicious. Like joking about a person, then laughing their ass off, that's a very, very suspicious type of behavior.
I'm not
Very
laughing at me at my joke. I'm laughing at you,
no,
but that's
no,
okay. Keep thinking that way.
no, no. No, the thing is, I see the thing. As long as I'm 40 fucking 2 years old, I know I look younger. Thank you, but and since as long as I can remember back, literally as long as I can remember back, I have been doing stuff, creative stuff. From the moment I was able to walk and talk, I did stuff. I did so, and the thing is, probably the most intense way, I other than photography, which came later, but the most on a different level intense was, like because I did like 20 years, theater, right? And after every production that I was involved in, which were like depending on in the well, were those the good times or the bad times of my theater time? The one with 3, 4 productions per year, later just 2 per year, but um, after every production, I felt like in the deepest hole you can imagine. So you did like half a year of rehearsal, then a week or two, in our case, um, when we were actually on stage, right? And then there was this big hole of nothingness, and you were just exhausted and completely done with the world. And after every production, maybe not after like the first two or what that I was involved in my life, but uh, after every production, I told to myself, okay, that's it. Never, ever again. Never will I ever put a foot on a stage again. Never. And but I think so. I learned, and of course I did, right? Do that again. And so that is just part of the whole process for me. I learned that. Of course, I knew at that moment when I said I won't be doing that again. I knew that I will never be doing that again. It was absolutely clear as cold to me. I will never be doing that again. And even after 10 years, when I did say that to myself, I still believe that I will never be doing that again. But that's when it took a while until it clicked. Okay, this is just part of the process. And so it was last year because I'm in some cases I'm terribly superstitious. So when it started at the beginning of last year when I was um at a place that, and I'm also, call me crazy. I know you do anyway, but everyone is happily allowed to call me crazy or anything. But I was at a place for a couple of days. I
No,
went
no,
there
wait, no.
for
I was just listening because you said call me, and then the sound died, and I'm like, call you what? I'll call you anything you want as long
yeah.
as
I
it's
said
insulting.
call me crazy, but I know that you do that anyway.
Oh.
So the thing. And so I was there, and that place gave off a really strange vibe, and it was really an unpleasant, to an extent, an unpleasant experience because it was a place very close to where comparatively close to where my mom grew up. So I knew the area, and I had really fun memories of the area because we were there when I was a kid. Were there like every um every summer, right? So, and this was a skiing area, but after the skiing season, and I was there, of course, for landscape photography, nature photography, and then seeing how what humans do to nature, just to be able to hop on two slices of wood and sliding down a hill. To me, it was devastating to see that area, and it was really, I was, and then the weather was bad, so I wasn't even able to take the photos that I expected to be able. And so that was the whole year. It started that way, and the whole year didn't fucking change. When Heiko was there, we were on that was like that was a cool time, right? When we were seeing we saw some really cool places, and there were actually a couple of photos that I made that I liked, which were like a few photos that I liked. But then, and that was like the big thing when I was, and it was a birthday present. So we went to beautiful place, um lake with really amazing place. And after the first day of shoot, of course, photography, right? After the first day of shooting, my memory card died. 400 photos gone.
No.
400 photos gone. And I said, okay, that's it. Photography. That's it. Photography. Let's skip that. I'll do something else. For me, that
Wait,
was,
so
and
you were gonna wait. So you were gonna give up photography for losing three good pictures? Because you know, out of the
not
400, if you were
yeah,
lucky,
because
three were good.
that's what I said. It was like the whole year before that. It didn't really. There were like four pictures that I made that I liked when Heiko was there here, and but the rest of the year was just bad weather, and I didn't. And the story has a happy ending. So,
You stop
but
talking.
but that is the second happy ending. So okay, card died. So I somehow survived the following 2 days. I took a couple of shots, wasn't really happy with those. When I was home, I was able to rescue the card, rescue
I
the photos
remember
on
you
that
posted
card.
about
I
this.
made a post about that.
Yeah.
So one fucking day later, my hard drive with all the photos I ever made, all the digital photos that I ever made, 90,000 photos, died. And so, because I said when the card died, the SD card died, I said, okay, that's it, right? Okay. Then of course it wasn't it, because I continued taking photos. I rescued the photos on the card, came home, at home, rescued the photos on the card, and then my drive died. I'm a superstitious bastard. I believe in signs. So what can I take out of that? Right? So of course for me it was, that's it. Second time, that's it. But then, but even though I knew that that is it for me, right? Same whole thing like with theater. I knew that's it. Still, I sat there for like a week and got my photos back from the backups that I had, putting them together, right? Um, but then, and this is the thing, and this is the whatever you might call it happy end. So I thought, what is that about? I do believe in signs, and I do believe in, call that omens or whatever. I don't believe that anything that will show up today will tell us what will happen tomorrow. But it's kind of it told me something. But what is it that it told me? And to me, it told me, hey, Pete, you're still riding on that wave of outdated technology. Not in terms of that I can take great photos with the old camera, but I still had my Windows 7 computer because I was no, why would I need Windows 10? Um, Windows 7 is fine, and I don't wanna adapt. So that was more like it. I don't wanna adapt. I was like one of these guys who say like, yeah, I still shoot analog because I don't want all that, because these people do exist, and they find all sorts of excuses for not having to switch to digital. I don't have anything against analog. Don't get me wrong, but there are a couple of people out there saying, no, this is all bullshit. So, and I was that person. I was that person to say, no, I will do that, and that is good enough, good enough, good enough. Even though I knew that it's not good enough because I wasn't happy with my photos anymore. Right? I knew that I wasn't good enough. It wasn't the equipment that's not good enough. I wasn't good enough because I just said it's good enough what I do. What I do is good enough. But I wasn't
For your
happy with
personal
it. So
pictures?
my personal pictures. So I
I
knew,
didn't think about that until now.
and
Wow.
you get. I was afraid that I wasn't able to communicate what I mean. So I just, what I did that year, and that was really when it clicked. What I did that year is I walked up that hill. I saw that site. I took out my camera. I took a couple of shots, and that was it. I didn't immerse myself in photography anymore. Right. So I just took pictures.
But
And
it's still immersing yourself in photography.
no, if you're up there just nice, having the camera like on the safe thing. Okay, if the shot doesn't come out the way I want it, then I'll fix it in post. That kind of shit that I'm always like, I was there. I was one of these people that I quote unquote condemn, right?
That's the problem. You
That's
become
the
what you
problem.
condemn.
I become
But
what I condemn. And so here's the thing, and because I see Amy's comment she wrote. Oh, I can show it. What's the point? What's the point in forcing it? You end up taking rubbish and deleting them. Well, I do it anyway. Exactly that. That's where I was, and that's what I realized, and that's how I got out of that whole thing. Is I forced myself to take photos because that's what I do, right? I'm the guy who takes photos. I forced myself to take photos. And that's what you read. Like, yeah, I don't really want to, but you have to push through. And sometimes we have to push through. And how to get through a creative low, you have to push through. Bullshit. Bullshit. Complete bullshit. You don't have to. Let me
wait, but
finish
it may
that.
work for
This is
some
the thing.
people.
I'll be silent after that. I say it's bullshit. Why do I say it's bullshit? The thing is, don't push through in terms of, don't force yourself to take photos. That will make taking photos to a task. Do something else. And that's what I did. I forced myself to have the time and the space to do what I love. And that is taking photos. It's a trick. I tricked myself. right? I didn't force myself to take photos. I forced myself to stop, to say, okay, I will now have these 2 hours for myself in which I can take photos, and not I have to take 5 photos today and one of them has to be good. And that is a slight change in perspective, but that does a whole thing. It's the same if you want to if we want to stop smoking. Stopping to smoke is super simple. Um, and most people just do it the wrong way. And
Well,
now I'm silent.
that is a good point, and it goes back to the conversation Amy and Mazette, and the letting it happen, and that's actually, I want to say, in the last maybe 5 years, what's been helping me with the photography, with the depression, with anxiety, with you name it. You know what? This is what's happening now. Cool. I'm depressed. Yay. Because the forcing or the fighting, because that's really, or the resisting, any of those, which are basically the same thing, or they're trying to manage. Again, it's part of the same. It's so easy to spiral then into that becoming the issue. The doing, instead of just that. There is a quote from one of the um, uh, Buddhist teachers. Um, Everything is workable. It is a fearless proclamation. It is the lion's roar. And that, believe it or not, is something I go to. Not even the whole quote, just everything is workable. See, I haven't cried on YouTube in a long time.
Because you
and,
haven't
and
been on YouTube for a very long time. You
and there are
know
so
not.
many YouTubers who are grateful. Um, but that really is what I go to if I remember, because sometimes, but even if I lapse into that, it's that whole thing of stopping and saying, okay. And with photography specifically, I have to say, one of the things I've learned how to do, which goes back to what we were talking about being professional, and is to say no. I was recently, I recently went to this event. Actually, the event that I talked about in my post about the photographs that are going to be in the journal, featured in under the gum tree in October, where I met this guy who I actually knew from before, and when we went to dinner in December, I took pictures of all of us. That's actually how the whole thing started, by the way. I took pictures of all of us. I had my. By the way, I'm in love with this lens, the Prime. Oh my God, I hate to say this, and I'm going to say it publicly. Pete was right. I would fall, and he's not the only one who said that. I mean, I still love my 24-105. But anyway, I pulled out my camera. I took some pictures. I actually posted one of them of Evan, as a matter of fact. And he asked me. He said, "Oh, you've got a camera." I know. Well, I mean, anyway, and then he asked me to photograph. Oh, if you we maybe if you're interested, would you like to photo? You can go ahead and photograph the event and the people who are speaking. That immediately just the spidey senses started to tingle, and I the pressure of, oh my God, am I going to take a good picture? The light, blah blah. And I'm like, I didn't do it. And I didn't say no, but he hasn't asked. But I've had friends. I had one friend. Oh, can you photograph our wedding? I was like, no, no, I don't want that pressure. I don't. When I want to pick up my camera and photograph people, which I do, I will. But it has to be that I'm moved. Um, and I know a lot of artists, a lot of like Stephen King, just sit down every day and fucking write. I get that, but
But I
but to
think I
me,
think can I sorry. I think
go
that
ahead.
exactly is it. They don't sit down to they of course they do, but I think the trick is really, and that is the mistake that I made. because of people like Stephen King, whose book about or on writing, by the way, is a fantastic book. But
I love that book.
it's not this I have to sit down and force myself to write, but no, I force myself to have the time, to have the space to do that, to write. And this is also
Well,
what you
it's not
wrote
even
in the things.
forced.
It's
It's I'm doing what
letting
I
it
love.
no, it's letting it happen, right? Sit down and write. No, it doesn't matter what you write, just write. And this is what I in my, I don't
Right.
know if you read that post that I did on the abstract challenge about the rule of 9 that I almost religiously follow. It's the same thing, expecting that you will suck, because sucking is part of the process. Being bad, producing bullshit, producing terrible things is part of the process. You cannot produce great things if you don't produce terrible things, bad things. This is just how it is. And so you have to get that stuff out. You have to create that vacuum in yourself that gets automatically filled with good stuff.
Right.
That's just
So
how it is.
so it's interesting because to me the writing process, um, in a lot of ways inspires the way I look at photography. And there's two things, and I've talked about this before, but since we're talking about writing, I went to see Little Women, which I highly recommend, by the way. I've tried to watch the two other previous
I
versions,
hope you're
including,
talking about a movie.
yes, the movie Little
Okay, okay.
Women.
I went to see Little Women. That's what you said.
Yeah, that's the name of the movie, Little Women.
Okay, I didn't know that this is a movie name. I just
The
went out to see Little
the
Women.
1980s are over, Pete. Let it go.
What
Anyway,
what does that have to do with the 1980s?
because you're stuck with Phil Collins and
Huh?
that shit. But anyway, so I went to see the film, and part of the story is one of the characters, Joe, becomes a writer, and she writes the whole story of the Little Women and yada yada. And what's really interesting, it's the same way, and it's funny, I hadn't thought of it until now that I've mentioned this before, I'm sure, how photography is presented, or any creative process is presented to all of us. You see a film like one of my favorite films, Funny Face, and you see Fred Astaire, on the life of based the story based on the life of Richard Avedon, and he's creating all this wonderful stuff, but you don't see him going through the contact sheets and going, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Little Women, the same thing. You see her, oh, my sister has died and I need to write, and she's writing, and it's pages and pages, and it's a beautiful, I mean, it's a technically brilliant film. And she's putting down all the pages, and there's more pages, and putting them in order. But you don't see her going, I wrote for 3 hours today, and this all sucks. Bam! And tearing it. And that's what the process of writing is about. That is what the process of photography is about. That is what the process of cooking is about. The process of painting, the process of sculpture, anything creative, designing clothes, designing anything creative. The ¿cómo se llama el tipo este? Michelangelo did not just get there and take a piece of marble and create David. Granted, he did, because he's got the one fucking piece of marble. He cracks it. He's goddamn chair. It's screwed, but he still had to think and go and edit, and God only knows how many other pieces he might have messed up. And that's, I think, the thing about it too, that we compare ourselves, and we don't even compare ourselves. We are bombarded by these images and these ideas of these, because even when you look at the movie about Ear Boy, the guy who cut his ear off, Van Gogh. Yeah, I mean, yes, he suffered all this stuff, but when he's painting, it's like he's painting, and that's not, I'm sure there might be some people who have that. God bless you, if any of you are out there. But for most of us, and most of the creatives, including someone like Stephen King, let's go back to him, it is about, which is why writing is so great, it's about the editing process. It is about, and in photography, it is about the editing process. In painting, it is about the editing process. If you're doing specific, like especially oil painting, you can sort of mess with it. If you're doing watercolor, you're kind of screwed. But it's still, whoops, I messed up. Which is, for example, Janet at Geditor. She posts about her process and how the mistakes and all this stuff. And that's where I think, and I don't think it's just a modern media thing, because God bless him, Mike's beautiful letter about his doubts when he was painting the Sistine Chapel, which goes back to what Amy and Massette were saying. This is part of the creative process, because we don't really know how people are going to react. We don't really know if people are going to get it. And that's huge, whether you're doing a little 4x4 painting with two colors, or whether you're doing the Sistine Chapel or photographing your family, but you want it to be art, like I do. I admit, I take pictures of my family, and sometimes I don't just want a snapshot. I want something that expresses my part in what I'm seeing, and what the photograph tells me it wants. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can.
No, I get you. But there's a thing. I mean, there's a two. There at least there's more. There are more layers to that, but there are two huge layers about that. The one thing is when I heard a brilliant comparison lately, or example, however you want to call it. What is good photography? What is good photography? It's very simple. It's actually very simple. Good photography is always about something and not off something. So if you boil it down to that, what is that? Is a photo of an apple, or is it a photo about an apple? Oh, how fresh is that apple? How red is that apple? How rotten is that apple? Does it tell a story, right? If it tells a story, if it's about something, then it's a great photo, or it's a good photo, better photo than if it's off. And I think this is the thing when we take photos. And I was over the holidays, between the years, I visited family, of course, which was like so far the only time when I really had my was able to play with the camera. And then, of course, I mean, you can take photos of grandma, yeah, or you can say, how now the light is great, and oh, now she sits somewhere where I can implement the background. And this is if this starts to become an automatic process, that you not only try to take a photo of grandma, but about grandma eating cake, or grandma opening her Christmas presents, or grandma laughing with one of her grandchildren. So that is what when photography starts. And then, well, this is done automatically. Well, can not automatically, but this is the way how we can make good photos. The second thing is, and now I forgot the second thing.
So while you're thinking that's fascinating, because I signed up for David Duchovny's the compelling image course a while back, and I finally started, and I was watching it last night at just the beginning, and that's exactly what he said too. That is, it's like almost word for word. That's exactly what he said. I mean, but especially what strikes me is the coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidence either, that you brought up the issue of it being automatic. And that goes back to what I have said so many times, and will probably keep saying again, and which is why I don't remove myself from the photography. Because learning about photography, learning about ways people describe the images, about what is it about some of the masters, and it doesn't have to be photography, it can be cinematography, whatever. What is it that influences me, and so on, and how do I, and it was interesting because he also said, so many people worry about what f-stop did you use in the picture, but really, what was it that that photographer was trying to say? What was it that they saw? What, you know what I mean? What compelled them to shoot what you said with that light and so on? And you made me think of several pictures that I've taken recently that got, you know, some nice comments and some positive, that were, you know, just a family of friends. Actually, the picture of Ray, with the split background, which I have several of, that one got some great feedback. And it was just that. It's like I saw, you know, I was in his place, and I was just like the photo of the cat. I saw that cat with those two pillows. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a. I didn't even have to fucking think about it. And that's the thing. And when you're doing the settings, it becomes automatic, not because you're just some talented, you know, person who, but because you've studied all this stuff, you've looked at it, and you know how your piece of equipment works, which goes back to the other point that we were going to talk about.
Exactly.
How do you choose your camera? And it lets
Right.
you capture that at that moment.
But there, that is where what I said in the video that I posted yesterday. That's where rehearsing and practicing comes to play. You can't just
That's it.
you can't just take buy a camera and think I have a new camera and this camera has this feature, that feature. So now I this camera is fucking amazing. I love that camera. I absolutely love it already. But the thing is, I went out lately to well, just to take photos, right? And what this camera has, one of the features this camera has, which wasn't too interesting for me, it was well, I won't go to detail, but this thing has a super well, it was actually very interesting for me, the extremely accurate autofocus and super fast autofocus. What I was talking about was the burst mode, which I wasn't really that much interested in, but it's also super handy. So super fast, extremely accurate autofocus, 42 or 48 autofocus points, brilliant. But you have to fucking activate them, right? And so because it has a couple of autofocus features built in, and so I saw a flock of birds, and I just had to get the camera, and until I had the camera ready, the birds were gone because I was too slow, right? So we have to learn our gear, and we have to learn to blindly work. Now I'm still not there, of course not, but now I know at least what all these buttons do, where I have to press. I don't have to look. Okay, this is autofocus. This is the ISO.
Have
This
you
is
have you looked at, for, like I mentioned on your video, posted on your video? Have you looked for a D90 tutorial on YouTube?
yeah. I watched like 5 of them.
Okay, because for me, the Northrops and the other person, Tony Northrop, and the other person whose name I can't remember, but I goes mostly to Tor. I actually keep that because I know every once in a while I need to go back and look at this stuff, even though I
Yeah.
know the camera. You know, you get into patterns. But yeah, yeah, totally.
But
So
that's the thing. I mean,
yes.
sorry to interrupt again, but this is what I mean, I find myself in that same trap as well, right? Think, okay, new gear will make me a better photographer. No, it might, and this is the tough bit to understand, and the really if we have to be honest to ourselves about that. Yes, new gear or other gear, better gear might make our photos technically look better, but it won't make us a better photographer. And
Yeah.
that is a huge difference. Yes, higher low light, better low light performance will increase the quality of our photos. Yes, a higher quality lens will increase the quality of our photos, but it won't change a thing
No.
about me as a photographer unless I go out and practice with that, and I test that, and I really take photos and spend hours on that. But it's not the lens. And that would have done the
Yeah.
same thing if I would have done that with my old camera and with the old lenses, right?
Yeah.
It's the time and effort we spend and the thinking about and
Yeah.
immerse.
Well, it's interesting because I again, it's something I've said a lot. You know, first of all, I still miss my D50, 6 megapixels, um, uh, uh, cheap plastic kit lens that Ken Rockwell, God bless him. I mean, I don't think it's true anymore because this thing is,
Bless him.
you know, he posted, you know, this was his go-to lens. He has all these expensive cameras, and for the most part, it was the lens that he used all the time, unless he really needed something specific. Gorge, and what's interesting is I still miss it, but my type, for example, in this collection of photos that will be featured, there are some photographs from the D50. And there are photographs from when I had the D50, the D5500, and of course now with the Sony. The only thing that I have noticed is, like you said, you know, with the low light capabilities, we were talking about the eye focus. Gotta love the fucking eye focus. Or when it finds the face, sometimes it won't find. I don't know about yours, but mine's will find the face if it can't find the eye, because sometimes in really low light it won't find the eye. That helps me push the possibilities of where I can use it, but I still pretty much take the same kind of pictures, and I'm not complaining. Um, which brings me to another point, and this is something I think about, and if it's a new can of worms, we can discuss it some other time. But I think it does, in a way, go into the burnout and into the one part of the Northrop's post about burnout that really impressed me. That whole point of, I'm not enjoying my own photography because I've taken so many good photographs. I find, and again, not just in photography, but overall, there is this very modern and increasing, because of so much content that's out there, push for artists to create something new. You haven't done anything new. You aren't changing. You aren't growing. What the fuck? There is, I've always been fascinated by the artists who work on recurring themes. And in working in those recurring themes and doing the kind of photography that I've always done, I've grown, granted, partially because of the equipment that I have, but also partially because sometimes, just again, naturally, I'll see something, because again, that's the way I work. I you know, will walk by something for 10 years and then all of a sudden one day go, wow, the light is perfect. This is, and bam, take the picture. It'll never happen again. Uh, but for me, the whole idea of the new thing, that at that moment was the new thing for me. That experience, even if the photograph sucks, was the new thing.
Right.
But I think we're so pushed to innovate, to stimulate that market that we supposedly have out there of followers or clients, because in the end, to me, it's sort of the same pressure.
Yeah. The thing is, there's nothing new out there anyway. Everything has been done already. So this is super liberating, because, and I think I posted that lately somewhere, I think on Let's Talk Photography, I'm not sure. That quote by uh, um, a photographer that who I YouTube, also who has a YouTube channel, Thomas Heaton, who wrote in his book, which I can really recommend. He wrote one book about landscape photography. Beautiful, not technically at all, rather a description about, rather sort of a meditation on landscape photography.
Oh,
Beautiful book. And he wrote something to the effect of, yeah, sure. If you want to take that take a photo of that landmark that has been photographed a million times, but not by you. Why would you keep yourself from enjoying of making a great photograph just because Sexy John 369 says, yeah, I've seen that like a million times. No, don't do that to yourself, because Sexy John is an idiot. So then, and he's right. Why would we not take? There's a thing, especially with iconic places, landscapes, landmarks, whatever. In many cases, there's just that one point where you can take a photograph. So every photograph that any person takes will look more or less the exact same, because there's just that one point. I have that photograph. I don't know, a photograph of that rainbow on my blog, which I had a couple of really lovely comments and really lovely messages, and I was almost embarrassed to say, yeah, it was basically not possible to not take that photo, because there was just that one place where I could, they were like, I bet you when you Google that place and do a Google image search, you will find 1,000 photos that look exactly the same. But so why would I not take that photo? I love that photo. I enjoyed taking that photo, and I enjoyed showing that photo. So it's just telling people, and what I never understood, and that comes to play with your Phil Collins comment, how, because as some people might, it's a little known fact that, I mean, Fern still doesn't get it, even after years, doesn't understand it, that I fucking loathe the 80s. I hate the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. I hate the 80s. There's nothing worse than the 80s for me. So I don't know where he got this notion from. I tried to explain it to him, but there's a little known fact that I actually am a big fan. I don't even like the music from the 80s. There's just one band that I love who happened to have one or two hits in the 80s. It's a band from
So
the
was
70s.
it the 70s?
It's
then?
a band from the 70s, and they had some big hits in the 80s and even bigger hits in the 90s. So I don't know where that notion comes, and that little known band is Genesis, that I'm a big fan of. But, and this is very interesting, I think, also in that connection, that yeah, Genesis changed their style over the decades, and they changed it twice, right? And the fans went nuts. They went berserk. This is, where does this, I mean, how dare they? This is a real, but with every band that changes something. How fucking dare the so-called fans to tell a band what to do or what not to do? How dare they tell them that they suck now and they sold out? If I don't like the music, then I don't buy the CDs or vinyls or whatever. This is the way. I have a couple of bands that I used to love who changed, and well, I don't like their music anymore that they make now. So fine, but it's their choice. I would never dare to tell an artist what they should do or should not do. This is just, it's insane. I mean, I get it. I invite them to my home. I have an emotional connection to their music, whatever, or whatever they do. But the music doesn't go away. The music they made is still there. Same thing with, I don't know if you saw that with the Ghostbusters movie, when there was in 2016 was this all-female cast thing.
Which was
I
wonderful.
don't like the movie. I think it was a bad movie, but I don't
Really?
yeah, I really thought it was a bad movie. It was not well made, not well written. But where's the problem? Where all these people who an outrage, you can't, a female cast, it doesn't change the original movies. They're still there. Where's the problem?
Watch the original. Yeah.
And then watch the originals, right? So
yeah.
I didn't like the movie because I personally thought that it was not well written and not well performed and not well directed. But that's the reason why I disliked the movie, and not because it was a female cat. You can't. Same outrage now because someone posted that the new James Bond might be a female. You can't. Why not? If you don't like it, then don't watch it. Where's the problem? Same with the Star Wars movies. It's SJW movies. So what? Then don't watch it. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's so simple.
So it's funny because and because it's on the comments in reply for the cat photo. I will share this because I was going to write something about it. So someone posted someone who's I don't think is a photographer, because I went to their site and they have just pictures of cats, a lot of them reblog. You should consider yourself really lucky, because so many of us try to get our cats to allow us to take their picture, but they're always moving. I'm sure you must consider the fact that your photograph was you owe your photograph to the cat cooperating, which I mean I think I was trying to make me feel bad about myself, but what it made me think about was the fact that, look, any picture I take, the weather has to cooperate, the lighting has to cooperate, the technology that I'm using has to cooperate, the fact my communication with my camera has to cooperate, the person that I'm photographing. There's all of these things that so many photographers, when you watch them in action or when you watch them, there's this documentary of this woman photographer who was from years ago, where they knock on the door, they open the door, she's already got her camera in her hand, and she's taking pictures, and I can't remember who this was. She says, "Oh, let me take some pictures of you. Let me see what comes out." And I'm like, ding, 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 that's it. Here's a professional photographer who is renowned, and let's see what comes out. So it might have been trying to make me feel like shit, and it never said, "Oh, this is a great picture." I mean, it sort of implies, so it's what the backhanded comment, but it really made me think about the whole, all of the conversations that are in place when you take that picture and you want it to be an expression of about. I love that. And I'll tell you why. And after this, I'm not going to say anything else about the topic, because we've been talking for an hour and a half.
What exactly? Which photo exactly are you talking about?
The cat
I think I
photo.
missed that. Which cat photo?
The only cat photo I posted. You didn't see that one?
No.
It's a cat photo that I posted maybe a week ago or 2
Let me
weeks ago.
check.
And I mean, I haven't posted that many. So if you go,
Oh, I
and
check your archives. Very simple.
I asked also the question.
Oh,
Now
that
this is
one.
my first cat photo. Am I a real photographer now? And I got some really
Oh,
funny
I got.
comments.
Oh, yeah. I think I even commented that. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Right.
But the thing about the about, and to me, that's what that photograph was about, because it wasn't just, but it was also the cat was really cooperative. The cat really did just, I mean, it kept looking at me every once in a while going, "What the fuck are you doing?" But it left me. And I get that. Some of the other cats did move. But anyway, the about thing, that a picture is about. So this is the first time I'm going to share this with anyone. Lens Culture, for the second time, I submitted quite a few photographs. I paid for the submissions. What they do then is they give you a review of your photographs. The first time I did it, I was very satisfied, and I did talk about that before on Tumblr, maybe on here. This second time, I submitted only my architectural urban geometry stuff. And the reviewer said in so many words, I've seen a lot of this type of photography before, and your photography reveals something deeper about these places. That absolutely killed me in a good way, although I'm still having a hard time dealing with it. To me, that's what I think encompasses what you said even about the apple. You know, whatever you take a photograph of, if you take a photograph of the cat, what is it about? It's about that moment of serenity, the beauty of the cat, and so on. I think that's what. But again, I think that's also going back to the whole about thing. Um, how often do we really take a picture that it is about something? And is that okay? And do we let that disappoint us when we don't have the picture that conveys the about that we saw? Um, yeah, I mean, it's personal, which goes back to the comments that have been going on in YouTube. It's totally personal. It winds up being a personal journey that the most we can do is listen to each other and say, okay, you know, have maybe try this, or maybe even just say okay, and just give that space, give that expression of
I
a
went
space.
when I put together my seemingly lost photos, my whole Lightroom catalog with all the photos from 2010, which when I started with DSLR photography, to 2019. I went, of course, through uh, many of my photos that I made, and I was literally devastated at times in terms of what kind of terrible, terrible, terrible photos did I take? Why did I even take this? Not one photo, but 10, 15 of this area. And this was, it was, I was really in parts, I was shocked, literally shocked why I did that. And, but it was a very, very healthy thing to do, because this was another thing that kind of really made me very, very, or pushed me into the direction to completely stopping photography, because I felt super bad for not taking enough photos in the last year or two. And it's just I literally I have a new camera bag as well. I have literally all
Oh, let's see
everything.
the camera bag.
I have
I love
I will
camera
show it.
bags.
No, I will show that in my video. I will make a video on I'm currently working on 3 or 4 videos at the same
Well,
time.
you saw this one, didn't you? Did I have
Yeah, I
this one
saw
already
that.
when I went? Yeah, yeah.
But I will show everything, because there's I also got rid of my infamous neck strap, even though my paranoia,
God.
I don't have a neck strap anymore. So I will, you
Oh,
know,
cool. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Peak Design.
Peak, of course, everything Peak is, and
Yeah, Peak
I
Design.
have the Peak Design, I have the Peak Design
Oh,
clip. It's
sorry, too nerdy for me.
I love
Really? Where
it.
do you put it?
Oh, I have 2. I have one that I put on my belt. Awesome, absolutely awesome. And I have one that I have on my backpack, on my photography backpack. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Too nerdy.
No, the thing is, I also thought so. I absolutely thought so. I saw that in a couple of videos of photographers that I really admire, and that I on YouTube, and everyone has this fucking thing, and I thought, no way is that. But the problem is, this camera is super heavy. I
There we
had it
go.
super heavy, and when I was visiting my dad and my family and all, I had the camera, of course, with a neck strap, because I'm paranoid. I literally, and I don't know if I did that actually when you were around, but when I literally tell people on the street when they don't have a neck strap and they just carry their camera without any kind of thing, I
Oh,
tell them. So that's because it happened to me while I was in Greece. I was on the bus, and I almost missed my stop, and I had my camera on my lap. and I'm almost, and I jumped up, and the camera, it flew through the bus and it had a big lens on it, and the camera was still nothing happened, but I was terrified. And since then, I always had my neck strap and I always grabbed the camera, and I had the neck strap and the hand strap both on my camera. You saw that, I guess. Okay. So whatever. I had the camera like 2 days on
Well,
my
you barely
neck.
took any pictures because we were looking at buildings and you were asking why.
Exactly. That's why I never took pictures. But so, and I thought it can't be that this thing is so super nerdy that it doesn't really. So I watched videos on that, and I said, okay, I will give it a try. And I love it. I absolutely fucking love this thing. It is amazing. It is super expensive, cost like $60 or something. But it's amazing. I don't want to miss it anymore. So
See,
not sponsored by Peak Design. It's really, I paid for that with my own money, and I'm super happy with that. But all the Peak Design
actually,
things,
I'm
it's
a
just like,
fanboy. I have the straps,
I absolutely, yeah,
one
I
for
will
each
get
camera.
one too.
And
No, I will
you know what I
I will
love
get the
about
big
this?
one.
No, oh, see, no, I like the wrist
Yeah.
strap, and what I like is that I take it off one side, and sometimes I'll carry it in my right, and then I'll move it and I'll put it on the other side, and I'll carry it on my left. Oh yeah,
Mm.
you know,
But you could take it off, right? And put
yeah,
it on.
yeah, but with that you can only carry it on your right, and I sometimes and actually sometimes prefer just carrying it on
Oh,
the
right.
left
Yeah, I
if I'm
get it.
doing this.
Oh, you have one
So
of the clips on the other. Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, have a clip
Oh,
on
that's a
either
very
side,
good idea. I will do that.
but I have to say,
A wrist strap.
you know, it's all about how you use the camera, what camera you have, because I still, and being in this meeting with all these other photographers, they kind of looked at me like I was crazy. I still take a picture. I'm going to take a picture. I turn on the camera, take off the lens cap, put on the lens cap, turn off the camera, unless I'm like at a street event or something. But usually that's my process, because I usually photograph
Yeah.
stuff that isn't moving or anything. So I can take my time to protect the camera, turn off the bat.
And miss a
Sorry.
million shots because you forgot to take off the lens cap.
No, that I didn't miss any shots. That one I went insane. That was when I posted that whole thing about, oh my God, it's black. My camera's brand new camera's broken. And it only happened to me once. But yeah. Anyway, I think, I don't know about the people on YouTube, but I've had enough. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to eat. Oh, look, I just did this again on the on YouTube now. It's the I'm done. We didn't talk about the camera choices.
Now, since this whole streaming thing works again, and it's even much better, I think it's much better than Hangouts. I find it much simpler, and I love that I have the comments in the same window. I can share them. This is amazing. So we had in the past super awesome discussions on the chat, so this will be a great thing for discussions. And when we actually not only talk about ourselves, we had to talk about ourselves after like more than half a year of silence, right? So not so much on
Yeah,
the issue.
well, but it's
It's
not
a
so much
thing.
about ourselves too. I mean, it was about other people because it's come up in different ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
So
Mia,
yeah. So
I'm dull. Anyway, so I'm done. Let's go. Do your usual thing. If anybody wants to join us, please. I don't like talking to Pete all
yeah,
that much.
Jennifer messaged me that she wants to join in one of the next times. Of course, everyone is allowed, not allowed, of course allowed, but
Invited.
invited to join us. I love this new platform, StreamYard. Really cool. And thank you, Amy. Amy wrote, glad it's sorted. Missed these. We also missed these a lot. We missed you guys and girls out there, of course, because it was always like a real highlight of the month, at least for me. So despite having to talk with Fern, of course, but so this is cool. This is super easy. I'm happy. And so let's wrap this up. We didn't talk about gear, not so much about gear, but we talked about photography burnout and
And a whole bunch of other shit. And we can
whole
talk about
bunch
gear,
of
the gear choices some other time.
yeah. Well, I will definitely make a video on my reasoning on why I chose this camera, because it's actually a thing, right? While DSLRs are certainly not dead, which is just what does that even mean, right? That's what you read everywhere.
It's clickbait.
Clickbait. DSLRs are not dead. Why would anyone say that? What really? What does that mean? What does DSLRs are dead even mean?
Next time.
Next time, right? Okay. Now I will address
1
that in
hour
my
and
video, I guess.
45 minutes.
Yeah. So then, thank you all in the chat and all who watched. Steph, Amy, Jennifer. Let me scroll up. Roy, James was on the chat as well. Hello, James. The Mazette on the chat. Very good. This Fernando guy who we don't want to talk about. Heiko was on the chat as well, of course. And yeah, so this one's for today, I guess. Bye-bye. Till next time. Let me end the broadcast. How can I do that? Oh, here it is. End the broadcast.
Please end it.
End the broadcast. Not yet, or end the broadcast. Yes.